Welcome to the Scoop on Order. It is a very good Thursday. We got some really big time football with Colorado and Montana State kicking off very quickly here. We're going to get through this show. Some new stuff on Michigan, also some new stuff that is going on with Ohio State with the game plan. We got a little bit of insight on what is going to go on versus Akron. Why are they going to feature J.J. Smith? We're going to break all of that down. As always, we appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Again, this will be a huge show because you guys make it one. But there's real college football tonight, folks. We got Dion, Coach Prime versus Montana State. Montana State is kind of a fashionable pick for them to upset the Colorado Buffaloes and Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter's campaigns for the Heisman in the crib. So we're going to break all of that down. So this is going to be actually a really, really good show, but it's going to be interesting to see how quickly we can get to this game because this is going to be an interesting one. There's a lot of people that are laying a lot of money on Montana State to upset Colorado. We're to see Jordan Seaton, who was at one time favored to attend Ohio State as a five-star left tackle, and he is now going to start tonight for the Colorado Buffaloes at left tackle. So we'll see what he's made of. We'll see if he potentially could bounce back into the portal if the Colorado experiment craters. So there's a lot of hyperbole around those guys. I can't wait to see it. With that being said, I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevadabuck. Excuse me. Oh, I got the Latrell screen on. Nevada, how are you doing? I don't know if you can hear me. I gotta go one more screen down. I apologize for that.
I can hear you just fine.
Nevada, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Real football's back. Got wagering going crazy on multiple games,
That's
and
great.
yeah, yeah, life is good.
Yeah, 1 second. Nevada, are you there?
I am here.
All right,
I am here, and
I apologize. My Bluetooth kicked off for a second. So tonight, Dion is coaching versus Montana State. So that's a very fashionable bet for Montana State to win. We go a bit of a Michigan update, and we also have we had a really nice nugget today on the site about what is going on with the Akron game plan. Where would you like to start tonight?
well, I mean, well, let's start with Michigan just because I know that that's what everybody wants to hear about, and that's what people want to hear about on the site. Um, what's interesting has been, I've been asked for a kind of a timeline on when I thought that the notice of allegation would leak, and when this thing first came down, I said the harder it was on Michigan, and the more brutal the notice of allegation was to Michigan, the longer it would take for this thing to leak. And this thing has been for a document that's gone to as many people as this has to have remained in this day and age is kind of crazy, to be honest with you. So you you already know my opinion on whether this was good or bad for Michigan. This was really really bad. Um, what I can tell you is I set the over under on the number of days that it would take it to leak at 7, and I said I would play the under. I'm officially lowering that estimate from 7 to like 3 from here on out. I think the leak of the notice of allegation is absolutely imminent. Um, I've been called by a couple of people that have claimed that they have copies of it. I've asked them to provide me with evidence that they have copies of it, and I haven't gotten that yet. But when this starts to happen, then generally, I would expect this notice of allegation to be, yeah, I mean, public in a complete form here in probably the next 48 hours. I think it's out there. I think people have it, and by all accounts, we'll all be able to read, the play by. I think the play by play of this whole Connor Stallion scheme about how involved it was, when it started, who the people were going, and if you remember, I mean, there were posts on other boards. There was posts on the Tennessee board, very famously by a guy who's talking about how one of his friends was hired as a scout for Michigan, and they paid for his travel and his hotel and his food, and he went to the game, and then he taped the video and he kind of sent it back. And at the time, it was kind of a weird post. It was kind of one of those kind of outlier posts, but the notice of allegation goes into great detail about the scheme and lays the whole thing out. and you'll be able to see immediately that this was way more than Connor Stalions just giving his mom tickets, and she took a few videos of the game and the band and sent it to Connor, and he already had it because he watched the TV broadcast and there was the tape. And it, I think that that's going to be the thing that's going to be probably the most interesting to people is one, the details of the Connor Stalions, scandal, but how it kind of, how it kind of unwound, and how it was implemented, who funded it, just the whole master spreadsheet element of this thing. I can't wait to see personally, because I've just heard about it, and I want to see it in writing. I want to see all 58 games laid out, and I think that will make for an unbelievable read. And then the second thing is just the whole origins of the scandal. When did Michigan know? Who knew, and when did they know it, and when did they let the NCAA know about it? Because that seems to be a real, the point of contention with the NCAA, and that on top of the fact that Michigan is a repeat offender. They've triggered that. They've triggered lack of institutional control, and I can't wait to see the details of that as well, because I think once you see that, we've seen the national media kind of turn already, but once the NOA leaks, I'm just telling you, it's going to be a hurricane of things that kind of start down, and even the most ardent Michigan supporters are going to turn on them, because there's really no defense for what they did and how they went about doing it, and that's why this whole thing is going to be so bad and end so badly for Michigan.
I think the stupidity is breathtaking when they talk about how did it start. And again, it started with Weiss's computer, again, getting handled and, audited, and they went through it with the forensics, and they found, you talk about the gambling cookies, you talk about the practice potential film. That's the thing is like these guys get tripped up because of another screw up. And again, so it's just karma on top of karma when you look at what these guys did. And I think that it's it's amazing that like when I rewatch this, I've watched this stupid documentary 3 times just to see if there's anything I could pick up on a third watch. And it's like, you know, Connor had his mom get on there and say, "Oh yeah, Connor bought me tickets," and these guys like, "Oh yeah, Connor bought me tickets because we're boys." And I'm again like, if you live in reality, and if you make 50 grand a year, which there's nothing wrong with that, that's amazing. Like, are you gonna spend $100,000 buying college football tickets for people you can't even name? Because when they pressed them, they said, "Well, who got the tickets?" I cannot recall who got the tickets. I'm like, dude, if you spend double your annual income, your annual salary on tickets, and you can't even remember who you gave them to, then like I mean, like looking guilty isn't even where you're at. You just look like you're completely engrossed in the entire project of doing what you're doing, and so that's why I think that these guys are going to get smoked. Talk to people at the Woody Hayes today; they think that it's coming down bad. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all goes down. But I think that, that documentary hurt him. I think his testimony was impossibly weak. And I think that, the NCAA is chomping at the bit like a rabid dog on a piece of meat. Like that's where they're at right now, because this is something where, I've talked to like if someone was getting ready to execute me, if I was laying in the gallows and someone was like holding, like Ned Stark was like holding his sword over my head, I'm not gonna like flick him the bird and tell him to f off and hope that he swings harder. I'm gonna say, look, is there no way I can get out of this? And Michigan's the opposite. They're so dumb that they've just insulted the NCAA. They've lied to the NCAA. They've insulted their intelligence. They haven't cooperated. So, I can't take anybody seriously that thinks that they're not going to get smoked by the NCAA, but that's where I'm at. Nevada, any other thoughts? And we will get into the Akron game.
Well, yeah, I just think with Michigan on the whole thing is Stallions is going to talk about how he's trying to position himself as like he was some sort of ticket reseller, like he was like some scalper that would just buy tickets to random games and then resell them to random people, and that's how he made money. And it was so obvious that when you see this chart that yeah, he resold some tickets because those were tickets that, for whatever reason, he couldn't get one of his Geppettos to go to the game and record the video. He couldn't find a stringer, so he had to resell the tickets. So he resold the ticket. But I mean, like, I just love the fact that Connor's like, his defense is, I just bought tickets to random games and then I would resell them on the open market and make. I just like, Connor, come on, dude. Like, just come correct, own this thing. This is a multi-year. I mean, this was a 3-year scandal. This was not something that went on one game or 1 week or even half a season. This was 3 years of this, and the fact that this went on 9 months after they received their first notice of allegations for their first investigation. I really just don't have any words. I truly believe that, as we talked about last night. I mean, the one thing I know is that when this thing came down, there were discussions from people that felt this merited the death penalty, and they're never going to use it, and they're never going to put it down. But the idea that they felt that that's how serious this was, that they felt that, um, I I think that kind of set the tone for the entire investigation. I think that when they've gone into this with a seriousness, knowing that this affected lives, this affected other coaches, people's careers, this affected people's legacies, this directly affected ball games, and that's why when you go back to the original letter, the Tony Petit letter, and he's citing this stuff with the NCAA, they talk about how not only do they do the scheme, but they went right to the heart of the matter that Stallions was in this place of honor on the field right next to the coordinators in the middle of the game. So they know how important he was to Michigan's sudden resurgence and the part of their whole thing turning it around suddenly. It didn't come. It wasn't a bolt from the blue. It was just they started cheating and they went from mediocre to really good. And yeah, I mean, this is way more profound than any illegal player or illegal benefit or illegal recruiting visit or anything else like that. This went right to the integrity of the game, and there can't be anything that's more important to enforcing the NCAA than this. And that's why I think they've got this right, and I think they've got Michigan exactly where they want them.
And they're going to smoke them. Like again, we've talked. If they give these guys the James Yoder, and again, I love Yoder, but I think he's way off base when he says a 2-game suspension for the head coach and a fine. Like every team in the country would pay that penance to do what these guys did. I mean, again, they went from the same crappy 3-star recruits being, like 500 basically to being like a 900 winning percentage with the same guys. So it all changed really quickly because again, you had a lunatic show up, say, "Hey, I know how to count the cards. I know how to cheat at poker. I know how to cheat at backgammon, whatever." And all of a sudden, like they're like, "Wow, this is amazing. This is great. It's great." It's like Michigan football is a lot like the movie Blow. Like, I mean, you guys have seen Blow with Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, the middle of the movie is awesome. Like, he's selling a ton of whatever, and he's got like just boxes of $100 bills and can't find any room for them, and they're going in the bedroom and stacking it up, and it's like, oh my god, we got all this money and this is great, and wow, that's what an amazing life. Like they have so many $100 bills that they're in shoe boxes and they can't find a place to send them. But then like you fast forward like another 30 minutes and then when you get to the end of it where he's like by himself in prison, sad. His daughter never comes to see him. He's like hallucinating. Like that's what Michigan football is. Michigan football, like winning the national title, it's like the middle of Blow, and then you get to the end of it, you're just like, man, it's not sad because again, it wasn't like he didn't know what he was doing to get fast cash, where his family turned on him, his mom turned on him, turned him in, and he's in the clink for like ever. And it's funny because he got out like a couple years ago, then they put him right back in because he went right back to trafficking. But it's just like that's what Michigan football is. It's the movie Blow. The middle of it is when they win the national title. The end of it is when he's in the prison yard and he thinks that his little daughter Sunshine's coming to see him and she never actually sees him. Like that's Jim Harbaugh. That's Michigan football. That's what those guys are. And like, wow, this is great. We won the Natty, but you got to pay. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. like they could have prevented all this and just actually just been better, but they were so bad that they had to actually do this and try to get over on people that are trying to do it right. So, Nevada, any other thoughts on that, or we can move into Akron week and some of the stuff we've heard on the team?
No, just notice of allegation. I think it's imminent, man. I'm telling you, I think it's imminent, and I cannot wait to see it. That we talk about like great shows, and we've had some great shows and some big shows, but the when the notice of allegation comes, and it's coming, I'm telling you, um, that's gonna be just the best show ever. And but stay tuned. I'm telling you, I would if it's not there over the weekend, I would be absolutely shocked because people are blowing up my phone claiming they have it. So somebody's got this.
Totally agree. All right, Nevada, let's get into Akron. Nobody's excited about Akron. Ohio State is a 50-point favorite at home versus the hapless Akron Zips. What are some of the things you put up a great nugget today that talked about some of the game plan, the scheme, who's going to be featured, what Chip Kelly's trying to get done? What are you looking for this week? What are you expecting? Who are some guys that are going to start this weekend?
Well, I mean, the big star's got to be Jeremiah Smith. You know, I mean, JJ's got to be a guy that there's a lot of reasons to feature him. Just his obviously his overwhelming talent. Ohio State wants to push the ball down the field, and you've got two 5-star wide receivers from modern day and over the weekend, and you want to feature your young stud. I mean, not that there's no better way to sell your story. About coming to Ohio State and playing early and making an early impact than if you can show a guy making an early impact and making starting as a true freshman and doing those things. So I expect JJ Smith to do his thing and to do it frequently. Now the thing is Akron knows that they've got to be double teaming him and or at least rolling protection over the top. And if they do that, that's going to open up the power running game, and that means Quinshawn and Trey are going to feast. But um, I want it to be crisp. I hope that the offense just can come out. Concerned is the wrong word because there's no, in a game like this, there's never any concerns. But you just hope that the offensive line can play with the kind of cohesion um, that you'd want because the offensive line's been through a lot this fall camp with with that eye, nose, and throat disease or whatever bad cow disease, whatever it was that was kind of going through there. A lot of guys missed a lot of time, and you put that on top of the fact that they were moving guys in the first place, and so you just wonder how cohesive the line going to be. It doesn't need to be that cohesive against Akron because Akron's going to be overmanned. But I just want to see I want to see the Chip Kelly offense. I want to see the quarterback pull the ball and run with it. I want to see Will Howard. Will Howard's getting a chance. Every one of these games matters for him. He realizes, hey, it's only Akron, but for him, it's step one of 17 steps or 16 steps to the national championship, and a potential first or second round grade for him because he wants to get the NFL. So obviously the defense, Caleb Downs, the guys. But look, I want a crisp effort on both sides of the ball, and I got to speak it out of existence, but and no injuries. So that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I expect to get.
I think that I agree. The no injuries is always huge going into every game, but I think that these guys have gone against each other so much in camp that they're dying to go against somebody else. I think that Akron is they're not super simplistic, but they're easy enough to stop with the talent that we have. But I think that when you look at what Chip is going to try to get done, because again, Chip is already preparing for the Oregon game. That is his thing. He wants this Oregon game to. He wants this Oregon staff to be like, well, God bless. These guys have run 60 different plays times 5 games, and like he doesn't want those guys to have a bead on us going into that game. No tendencies. So he's gonna break a lot of stuff. He's gonna run a lot of stuff. He's gonna show a lot of stuff. That's kind of his thing, is that he likes to show a ton of different things and makes defensive coordinators running the scout team try to emulate all that, and they waste time on stuff that he has no intention of running. And again, I've watched 7 or 8 games from last year multiple times just to watch what this guy likes to do, and I think it's going to be the treat of treats. It's going to be like watching like Inception, watching Chip Kelly's offense. It's going to be like mind melding, mind blowing, and because like his scheme is already X-rated. But when all of a sudden you throw in guys that are like Quinshawn and Trey and JJ and Emeka, he's never had that kind of talent ever. Not even in the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, like, I mean, if you're talking proportional talent for the level of play, he's never had anything like this with Will Howard at quarterback. So I'm excited. I'm very excited he's up in the box. He took one for the team and moved up to the box to do his thing. But I just I love it, and I think that the defense will be interesting to see. How do they roll guys? How do they take care of guys like C.J. Hicks that lost their starting job to Sonny Styles, and do they have a role for him to get him interested and excited? And I think Sonny's going to be an absolute monster as a well linebacker. And this defense it's very athletic, it's very talented, but it's also very physical. And I think they want to inflict pain on Akron and get after these guys pretty good. So it'll be exciting to see what a guy like Sonny can do as the will. Because Sonny, as much as I love Steel Chambers and his parents watch the show and I love Steel to death, Sonny is he's like a 10 out of 10 athlete. I mean, he's a blue chip, high level, freak show athlete. He's in the top level of freaks we've ever had at Ohio State. So having him play linebacker, which I think will be much more beneficial than having him playing strong safety, is going to be it's going to be a problem for Akron. It'll be a problem for the guys going forward. I think that Cody Simon is a guy that I've been made fun of for propping Cody Simon for 3 years. I said that he reminds me of AJ Hawk. He's a guy who's explosive. He's a great blitzer. He's quiet, but he's a great leader. And people like they literally, I've got receipts, so I can't wait. If Cody Simon was All American, like, you guys won't be able to contain me. So I'll be like, I told you, I knew it. I saw the 4.52 speed. I saw the explosion. But he ripped his shoulder out of the sockets for 2 years, so he didn't get to play much until last year. So I think Cody Simon could be the best player on the defense. And people are going to think I'm crazy. They'll say, oh, Caleb Downs, Jack Sawyer, Denzel Burke. But Cody's got that kind of upside because he can run like a deer. And he's physical, he's violent, and he's disciplined. His discipline can get military parents, army parents very well documented. So he's going to run the show. So I'm very excited about him. Nevada, anything else that we could dig into some super chats?
No, just the the Akron game. It doesn't mean anything on one hand, but on the other hand, it means everything. I think for Chip Kelly, Chip loves using these games to kind of set things up and put stuff on tape and get people looking at it and watching it. And Ryan Day has told players and parents and coaches and agents and everybody that he's going to go deeper into the bench, and guys are going to get a chance to play a lot earlier and often than they have before. Let's see if he's true to his word. Let's see if he can do that. And I want to see the new Ryan Day out there coaching with Chip Kelly calling the plays. I want to see how can we feel the difference. How big of a difference. And you're right, Chip being up in the box is freaking huge. I mean, freaking huge. There was initially, I know Bobby Carpenter had come out with a report saying that Chip was going to be on the sideline, and that did not make sense to me. And I thought that he would end up in the box. I'm glad that he's ended up in the box. I think that's where he should be. And I love it when things happen that are rational and that make sense and everything. Him being on the sideline just did not make sense to me. And now we've got both of our coordinators up in the box. I'd contrast it to Michigan, where they had both their coordinators down on the sideline. And as you so ably pointed out, that was because they wanted to have proximity to Connor Stallions in real time so they could cheat. I mean, that's literally the only explanation for it. Why would you have both your coordinators on the sideline? Oh, well, because we got this guy that needs to be able to communicate to them in real time. And the only way to do that is to have next to him. Oh, that makes sense. But anyway, I digress. We've got both of our coordinators up in the box this year. And like I said, I'm as excited for this season as I've been probably the most excited that I've ever been for a season for Ohio State football. That's how excited I am. And I know it's Akron, and I know it's all that. Dude, it doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna savor every moment, and I can't wait for kickoff.
Did you place any good prop bets or no?
I did. I propped J.J. Smith to score a touchdown. I know that you can't do prop bets in the state of Ohio on like the DraftKings and stuff like that, but you can go on like betonline.ag and all the offshore books and get it. I got it at -126. I think that's stealing. I think that if J.J. Smith does not score a touchdown, I would be absolutely shocked. But I mean, that's why it's gambling. But I really like that one, and I think that's a very live play.
I mean, in front of Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon Wyatt, you're probably the top two. No, they are the top two receivers in their class. Like, it would be malpractice to not feature JJ in a major way. Like, I would. I don't want to say I fire the whole coaching staff, but on offense, I probably would, because you have two guys that are flying 6.5 hours from Los Angeles to come to the Ohio State Akron game, and obviously Chris Henry Jr. is committed. Caden Dixon Wyatt, from the people I talked to, is better than him. So he's flying with him. They both play at Matter Day now because Chris Henry Jr. he left Cincinnati. He wanted to go out west, I guess. But like, I mean, you've got a true freshman starting who's probably the best receiver in school history, and why would you not give him 7 targets on the first drive and say, hey, if you're good enough to be that dude, then guess what? We're gonna start you. We don't care if you're a senior or junior. I mean, J.J. Smith, he went past, Jaden Ballard and all these other guys that are 4 or 5 year guys. Like he looped right past them. Even Ennis. I mean, Ennis is a monster, and he's not starting over J.J. Because again, if you're that dude, then you're that dude. And again, that's what I say to these freshmen. Like, hey, if you're really that guy, if the funny thing I always tell people, like, in life is like when you have to say something out loud, it's probably not real. So all these guys are running around saying, "Oh, I'm him. I'm that dude. I'm him." Like, guys that are really him don't have, like, J.J. Smith does not have to walk around and say, "I'm him. I'm that guy," because everybody knows he's that guy. So if you're Chris Henry and you're Caden Dixon Wyatt and you really are that guy, you don't have to say it. Just show up to Ohio State and work. If you show up to Ohio State and work and dominate, they'll start you over 4th and 5th year guys and guys that they're trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel or get some sort of production out of. You could bypass the line. It's like being a hot chick at the club. Like JJ Smith is like, who's your girl? Jessica Alba 20 years ago at the club. Like the ropes open up, the line is opened up, like the pathway with the flashlights is opened up. That's what it's like if you're JJ. Straight to the starting X wide receiver spot, my sir. And thank you for coming. And it's great to see you because you are that dude. So Caden Dixon Wyatt, jump on the train. Chris Henry Jr., jump on the train and come here to this VIP section that's called the bullet train straight to the first round, where you're going to be sitting there with your mom and your family and Ryan Day and Heartline and everybody, and they're going to be sitting there in that green room and say, okay, with the first pick, the Cleveland Browns select Chris Henry Jr., whatever. All right, Timothy Mullins, this is a very interesting Super Chat, Nevada. Getting called out here for $5. I appreciate you. Says the many aliases of Nevadabuck. Nevadabuck, Funky Buck, Dogson Poppy, Brohio, Nevada. That's a lot of yoga. That's a lot of Pilates. That's a lot of stuff to say that limber and to keep all of those screen names in line. How do you respond to the fact that you're Nevadabuck and Funky Buck and Dogson Poppy and Brohio? And again, you're on Nevadabuck twice, yeah. So I'm making sure.
Yeah, no, it's man. I wish I was Dagestan Poppy because I love his MMA action, and that's it. Funky Buckeye. I would have to pronounce Sonny Styles as Sony Styles every time and say Sony Styles, but I don't think I could keep those straight. So I don't think I can be Funky Buckeye. And Brohio, man, that was. I mean that was like I said. I've seen guys in witness protection that were less covered up than Brohio, but he went for it, man. He went for the full thing. He went for the full look. He didn't care what people thought about it. He went with the baklava and the glasses and the whole 9 yards. And I tip my hat to him. But that guy actually's got some good information. But yeah, I think I would have gone for like the silhouette behind a screen or something like that. But the baklava and stuff, it just looked ridiculous, and that probably wasn't the best fashion choice.
So you don't have to dress up like you're snitching on El Chapo and the Sinaloa cartel when you're talking to some stupid Netflix documentary. Like, you don't think no one's going to off you or kill you, or the cartel's not going to murder your family. right?
Well, he said his mom was receiving death threats and everything like that. So yeah, um, he should have used like one of those voice things that changed his voice thing and everything else like that. But yeah, but Ohio, he really went for it, man. He went for the full Tony Yester. And but heck, even Tony Yester didn't even do that. Tony Yester like showed up right there, was on the plane doing the whole thing. But yeah, but Ohio, baklava, glasses, hat, whole 9 yards.
That's why 1870 failed, because they're soft. Pooh Bear
That's
12,
right.
thanks for being an ultra member. Thanks for the 10. I don't know how Fry recruits slash coaches. Hope he crushes it this year. But man, we need LaCharles. So obvious he's elite. He'd instantly be the top O-line coach in the nation. Had me ready to hit the sled at Nevada. I know that you had to go golf today and hit a couple buckets of balls. Did you have anything left in the tank to hit the sled after listening to LaCharles?
Uh, I mean, Charles is an inspiring guy, man. I'm telling you what. Um, I mean, he's a big personality. He's a guy, but like that's the kind of guy that you want, around you if you want to make yourself better. And I think about like what could LaCharles do as the offensive line coach at Ohio State? I mean, yeah, I think it'd be like a combination of Coach Locke and Hartline and Tim Walton and James Laurinaitis all rolled into one big muscle. Um, yeah, I think he'd be unbelievable. But Justin Fry's got the ace in the hole. He's still got that tuxedo he wore to Ryan's wedding, and so I'm not quite sure if they're gonna. I'm not sure if they're gonna use him anytime soon. But if something happens to Justin or Justin moves on up the line, man, Charles is just a phone call away, and they should definitely make that call.
I mean, at least tight ends coach, right? I mean, he could coach tight ends. I mean, that's the easiest position on the field to coach. Make him tackle and tight ends coach. But yeah, LeChuck would be. You want to talk about fixing line recruiting? Like he is the guy, because I'm telling you, the people that he's coached and taught and and resuscitated their careers, and the amount of money he's made for people is it's sickening. Like nobody can touch him in terms of that. NJ Phil, thanks for the 5. Oh, this is great. Nevada's named out that Connor's parents were in the documentary defending him when their own house magically got paid off. If I were them, I'd be as quiet as I could be. Nevada, was that interesting to you, the fact that their house magically got paid off by some mythical Michigan man during the entire Connor Stallions scandal? That's what I said. I was like, I mean, if I was Connor Stallions, the last human beings on earth that I'll expose my insanity and my stupidity to is my family. Like, I'm not having my mom on there. I don't want my sister on there. I don't want any of my family. I don't want my wife on there. I'm like, look, if you're gonna hit me with artillery strikes, aim right at me, and I'll be sitting there smiling, wearing my sunglasses, and saying you're an idiot and bring it on. I'm not bringing in my mom. I'm not subjecting my family, because again, I think he's a coward. I think he's a moron, and I also think that he's just an attention seeker. He's hungry for fame. He's a zero in life. So he's like, okay, and so is his family. They're like, well, let us jump on here too, and let us talk about, well, Connor was just a different kid, and he was brilliant, and anything he could have wanted to do, he put his mind to it, and he would have been amazing. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, you are so full of trash, you're so full of garbage that it's disgusting. At some point, you have to come correct and say, like, look, okay, I messed up. I'm gonna take the artillery strikes. I'm gonna take the whippings, the beatings, whatever, and I'm gonna absolve the rest of my family from it. But instead, he drags his mom in. She looks like a complete moron. Gets around there saying, "Oh well, I Connor gave me tickets to a game too, and there's nothing wrong with giving mom tickets to the Rutgers versus Maryland game. There's nothing wrong with that." And me holding my camera like this, and but again, that's just when you're a coward and you're a phony and you're a fake tough guy like he is. Um, that's what you do. Like, let's have mom get interviewed and let her get exposed to the stupidity that you've ever conjured up. Nevada, what are your thoughts? NJ Phil says again, next advice says, is it odd that Connor's parents were in the dock defending him when their own house was magically paid off? If NJ Phil was them, he would be as quiet as can be. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I try to deal in stuff that we know, and like that whole his house being paid off. I've never quite really understood that or really had a good handle on exactly what happened with that because it was weird. Clearly, that money wasn't coming from any legitimate business that Connor was doing. So I'm not exactly sure how that whole thing went down. But look, when parents defend their kids, they come out and they'll say the darn. I mean, look, Jeffrey Dahmer's dad, you know, defended him. So I mean, like it doesn't surprise me that he had people around him that would come out and say the most ridiculous things to you know I wouldn't say curry favor, but certainly to cast his actions in the best possible light. But that's kind of what that whole documentary was. I mean, that was Wetzel, who was his source, and Isaiah Hole, who he talked to all the time, and um, Nicole Auerbach and his mom and dad and his Navy buddy. So it really it was interesting that they didn't really, other than the Detroit press guy, they didn't really have anybody that was adversarial, and so they cast everything with him in the most positive light, and even stuff that they wouldn't challenge, stuff that was simply ridiculous. But yeah, I would love to know more about the parents' house. That to me was weird. It was weird that happened. Um, and I'd love to have more credible information on what the source of that was, because that's a really odd thing to happen at any point in somebody's life. But for him, for them to happen at that point, right there when this whole thing was going down, it sure looks fishy to me.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like a really slippery slope where it's like it's so big and like obvious that like you see it and you're just like, how can this actually happen? Where somebody pays the house off, the guy's making 50 grand a year, and magically like this big slippery slope just disappears, and it's like, wow, like my parents got their house paid off, and wow, I paid $100,000 in tickets and I make 50 grand a year, which is 30 after taxes, and so something was amiss. Somebody was being like a sugar daddy to him and taking care of him. Somebody was, again, there are people that are that big of fanboys that they're intoxicated by beating Ohio State, and they're intoxicated by Michigan being good and having bragging rights at the country club, or bragging rights when they go out and across the country, and that's kind of where it's at. And again, when I saw that all these things, again, the documentary, like I wish they could let me write it and draw it. And okay, let's talk about the vacuums. You started a vacuum cleaning company with the star running back who's the best player on the team. LLC formed. You got here's a letter from the homeowners association talking about selling used vacuums, and you had 40 used vacuums on the front porch, and they wrote you a notice saying, "Hey, you have to get these out of here," and you're fighting it and threatening to sue them because, again, like if you live in a decent neighborhood and you have an HOA, like they're not going to let you make the front of your yard look like a flea market when people are trying to keep their property values up. But he did, because he's an idiot, and he locked Blake Corum into it, who's their best player. So again, like Loon doesn't even describe this him, and his family and his mom and his dad are they're in the same ballpark. And again, I don't like to insult those people, but they're just stupid, and they raised a really stupid kid. And again, they get all the whoopings that they need from what he did, because again, he wanted to climb the ladder as fast as possible, as unethically as possible, and and really he did. Like I told you, like there aren't many guys that are 25, 26, 27 years old. I don't know how old he was when he became a full time guy. They go from unpaid to paid at a place like Michigan in like a year. He went from an unpaid intern to cheating his balls off. And Jim Harbaugh and staff were like, we got to pay this guy. We got to keep this guy around. We got to give him his own office with a nameplate. And like, I worked at Ohio State for 3 years. And again, I'm not trying to act like I wasn't whatever, because I worked like crazy hard. But, like if they would have promoted me to being a full time guy inside of 3 years, like that is very, very rare. Very rare. I mean, like Brian Hartline, exceptionally rare, was a guy that, finished the NFL career, worked as a QC. Zach Smith gets fired, and I love Zach to death, but Brian just happened to be sitting in the room when Zach had to get let go in like August, and they're just like, "Hey, you're the wide receiver QC, so now you're going to be the wide receiver coach, and we're going to make it a voluntary thing, and blah blah blah. And it was Urban's last year, and he did a good job. And Brian, he inherited one of the best receiver rooms of all time, not from a talent standpoint, but from a character standpoint, because he had Terry McLaurin, who is a Pro Bowl $80 million receiver in the NFL as a captain. He had Johnny Dixon, one of the nicest kids of all time, a really good player, 5-star kid out of Florida, as a captain. And he also had Paris Campbell, who's from Akron, St. V, 4-star kid, captain. And again, you guys can hold me to this for the rest of my life. We will never see another time in the history of Ohio State football where we have 3 captains from the wide receiver room, ever. That will never happen again, ever. But that's what Brian walked into. So he had some dudes in that room, good kids. I'm not saying it's as talented as Marvin and Jackson Smith and Jigba and JJ and Emeka and whatever else you want to gin up, whatever year you want to pick or whatever. But he walked into a room that had really good people that Zach developed, and then he took off from there. So, but yeah, I think the Stallion stuff is it's only going to get worse. And again, the parents never should have talked. I don't know what they think they're going to get out of it. They're like the Costco guys, the double chocolate cookie guy. Like it's like cringy when you're pawning your parents or your kid off or whatever. It doesn't look good. JBat217, thanks for the 5. 3-year bowl ban, vacation of all bowls, and titles. More suspended for 3 games, fines, and lost scholarships. Agree with Nevada, calling it Nevada OH. I agree with all that. I think a 3-year ban. I think vacation of all bowls and titles. I think Sean Moore gets way more than 3 games. I think he gets maybe half a season. Fines, lost scholarships. I agree with. I don't know how Sean Moore, as a repeat offender, and he's right in the middle of this, and he's the head coach, with the lack of institutional control, only gets a 3-game suspension. Like, that seems like pudding. But Nevada, where am I wrong? Points that or punch some holes in my argument.
No, I think I'm saying 2 years, 2 years of bowl bans or postseason bans rather. And I the only reason I'm saying that is because I just feel like that's where they'll settle. I think that's where they end up. I think the NCAA would like 3, Michigan would like 1, so I think they'll end up at 2. But no, I agree on everything else. I agree, and I agree with you on Sharon Moore too. I think Sharon Moore. I mean, Kirk Ferentz just got 1 game, for Cade McNamara tampering or whatever the heck it was, determined to be a level 2 violation. Sharon Moore was on probation already when he got another level 2 here and destroyed evidence. So I think they've got to give him at least 5 or 6 games, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me if they gave him a year. I mean, Jim Harbaugh got a year for lying to the NCAA, and it was his first offense. Destroying evidence to me is it's just like lying to the NCAA, and he was already on probation. So could they suspend Sharon for a year? Wouldn't shock me in the least.
Joshua, thanks for the deuce with the college football playoff, Nevada. What power does the NCAA have? Well, I mean, if they vacate people, then I'm sure they can't make the playoffs. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got ultimate power. You have to remember the college football playoff, steering committee is run by members of the NCAA. So it's like, while it's not directly run by the NCAA, it is indirectly run by the NCAA. So they've got ultimate power over it. So if they declare that you're not eligible, then you're not eligible. They declare that they're not recognizing, then I would expect them to follow suit and not recognize. And I fully expect that as part of the punishment phase of this whole science thing, that the NCAA is going to not recognize their Big Ten titles and their college football playoff championship. I really do believe. I've been told that, and I really do believe that's where it'll ultimately end up. And then it'll be up to the college football playoff committee to vacate. And I think that's exactly what will happen.
Totally agree. Paul Lewis, thank you for the 100. I appreciate you, brother. I'll see you soon. Paul Lewis, Hall of Famer, Scoop Hall of Famer. See you soon, my dude. We got to crack that bottle open. You say, hi, guys. I'm no insider, but I'm hearing that J.J. Smith is going to be featured this Saturday. Have you heard this? Well, we actually reported this, so I appreciate you being a member of the Scoop family and being on BuckeyeScoop.com. Nevadabuck actually wrote a very nice nugget talking about how they're going to feature J.J. In this game. True freshman. Again, I think it's genius by Ryan Day and Chip Kelly to get this kid going early because you're going to have the top two receivers that are going to be sophomores this year, heading into or year after Chris and you're going into their juniors. You have two guys that are going to be monsters from Matter Day, flying 7 hours across the country to show up and do their thing. And to me, I think that if you don't feature JJ Smith, it's malpractice because I would want to accentuate vehemently, hey, if you want to play as a true freshman, we are the place for you. If you're good enough, this isn't a place where you have to wait your turn. This isn't because none of these kids that are 5 stars want to wait their turn. None of them want to I'll play scout team, I'll take it easy, I'll whatever. They all want to start as freshmen. So JJ actually did that. So why would you not feed the beast? He's the big dragon on Game of Thrones that eats all the little dragons. That's what JJ is. He's the big dragon. He's Vhagar, even though I know Vhagar is a girl. Don't come at me, Game of Thrones folks. I know that. But that's what JJ is. Vhagar. He's the big dragon that eats all the other dragons. That's what he is. So they're going to feature him in front of Caden Dixon White, in front of Chris Hunter Jr., and it's going to be terrifying. Nevada, your thoughts? Paulo says, "Hi guys, I'm no insider, but I'm hearing JJ is going to be featured this Saturday. Have you heard that?" Paul, thank you for being a part of the Scoop family and subscribe to our message board. Your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I look. I think it makes all the sense in the world. I think that they want to get JJ going early, and frankly, it's all consistent with what Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly wants people worrying about what you're doing and your weapons. And there's no better way to make people worry about something than to feature JJ and get defenses paying all the attention, and then you can roll out the scrubs like Emeka and Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes and uh, Trey Henderson and Quinchon and all the other guys that and I use the word obviously was kidding, but the I mean, you've got so many weapons on this defense. If teams are having to pay a disproportionate amount of attention to a phenom like J.J. Smith, it's just going to open up everything else that you're doing. But yeah, I think Chip wants to establish that right away that we've got a Marmaduke, that we've got a field stretcher. It would not surprise me one bit to see him go over the top 80 yards to him first play of the game, but we'll see.
Totally agree. Samuel Crockett, thank you for the 20. Thank you for being an entrepreneur as well. I work with 4 the Team Up North fans. They're in denial. Can you please give me something to say to make them shut the H up? Laugh out loud. Well, I mean, just you guys have like blood all over your hands and fingerprints and DNA and a gun that's got smoke coming out of it and a dead body and forensics for days, and that's where they're at this point. Like again, I know that Michigan people are very dumb. I get that. Blue Wolverine is one of the dumbest human beings that's ever lived. A lot of these guys that we've gotten rid of out of this chat because they're so stupid, they're not allowed to be in here. They're just not. I call them the smooth brains. Very smooth brained. There's nothing wrong with having a smooth brain. That's most Michigan folks, most of these general studies degree type guys. Like you got to understand, like when you cheat at this level, and you cheat in such a sloppy, crazy manner, like the house of cards is going to come down on you. When you're transferring tickets to people and they are sending videos over iCloud to your hard drive so that you can download them and study the signals and the video and whatever, and you admit that to the NCAA, like that is as gruesome as it gets. That's murdering somebody and driving to the police station and handing them your bloody gloves and your chainsaw and saying, "Hey, I murdered this person. I'm sorry." And then you can try to fight that later, but it's over. It's a wrap. It's rap skis. And that's where it is for Connor Stalions. That's where it is for Michigan. And, I mean, I think the problem with people is that people are not patient. People don't understand the legal system. People don't understand how things work. The wheels of justice are, like, the legal system is so corrupt, it's almost unconscious how bad it is. But it's something where, it takes a long time and the wheels of justice move slowly. But with the amount of evidence they had to collect, with the amount of research they had to do, with the infractions committee, which is headed up by usually like a top compliance guy from each school sits on the committee, and they they listen to the evidence, and they've got the eyes of the world looking at them right now. So this infractions committee's got to realize, like, look, if we want to go soft on this, you have to realize that we're going to probably ruin college football forever. Because if you don't smash these guys, then everyone's just going to do it. It's 2 game suspension, $500,000 fine. Like Ohio State, write that check all day, every day. You could have Jim Knowles coach the team or Chip Kelly coach the team. Ryan Day can go to Tahiti for 2 weeks and have a good time and whatever. But that is not what's going to happen. Like Michigan is going to get smoked in this thing because, again, if you cheat like this, it's no different than in Casino when the guy had the little electronic thing. And what did Robert De Niro do? Took the dude in there, put the one guy's head in a vice, the other guy got his hand smashed with a hammer. Go watch Casino and say, okay, Kirk, I see where you're coming from, because when you're trying to steal and basically steal people's money, that's where we're at. Nevada, your thoughts? Again, Samuel Crockett, thanks for the 20. Thanks for an ultimate roll. Appreciate you, my man. Since I work with 4 that Team Up North fans and they're in denial, can you please give me something to say to make them shut the hell up? What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, look, I think what people are really struggling with on this whole thing is they want to find a precedent for this, and there's just no precedent for it. There's no other case like this one. There's never been anything like this one, and I think that's where people are having a hard time. But all you have to say to them is lack of institutional control. And if you spend 15 seconds and research any lack of institutional control case, you see that the attendant penalties that come along with it, they're horrible. They're draconian. They they're both backward looking and forward looking. They will involve vacation of wins and as well as postseason bans. And that's what Michigan's facing right now. So that's all you have to say to them is lack of institutional control. Um, but this whole punishment and everything will be kind of the standard for things going forward, because when you don't have a precedent and then you finally have a penalty, then now you have a precedent. But as you said, if you don't punish this one as severely as possible, you're basically open up the floodgates to anybody cheating, to electronic. Look, I would put out a bounty for anybody to go out there and hack Michigan's helmet communications if it was legal to do it, or if it was a slap on the wrist or whatever it would be. I mean, like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you just hack, electronic communications? If stealing signs is okay, basically everything's okay, and the NCAA knows that. But I think once the NOA comes out, as I expect here in the next 24, 48 hours, I think even Michigan fans are going to kind of see that they're really in deep trouble. So best thing to do is just wait till it comes, show them that, let them read it, and then you have the last laugh.
Pedro's Luchario, thanks for the 5. Don't know if anyone has asked before, but do y'all think the science thing changes the way people should evaluate the play of the scum players? Well, I think so. I mean, if people know what's coming, it's a lot easier to execute everything than it is if they're not coming. But they still had good players. Like, I'm not going to take anything from Corum and Zach Zinter and those guys, but it's a massive advantage. Like, if I'm playing right tackle for Ohio State and I know who's blitzing from where, if the corner's blitzing, if it's a fire zone the other way, like, it's devastating if you know what's coming. Like when we played Notre Dame in '05, a lot of you guys were watching that Fiesta Bowl. They blitzed off the edge. We knew it was coming. We saw it coming. We saw the safeties move. And we picked it all up, and Antonio Pittman went for like a 70-yard touchdown to ice the game down. So if you know where it's coming from, like we did in that, and again, it wasn't because we were stealing signs, it's just we could read the defense. We full zoned it. We wrapped everything up, and it was rap skis. So I don't know. I think that you have to value them a little bit, but they still have good players. Again, I hate Michigan. I hate that they stole signs, but Mason Graham, 55, is a great player. Kenneth Gray, their 2D tackles are as good as theirs in the country. Still got to block them. The corner, Will Johnson's excellent. So you still got to hold those guys down. But they just don't have they're not as deep and they're not as talented as they used to be. Nevada, your thoughts? Pedro's Luchario says, don't know if anyone has asked before, but do you all think science changes the way people should evaluate the play of scum players? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it absolutely, especially on the defensive side, where they had the greatest impact. I think there's no question. I think it affected how they played, it affected how they coached, it affected how they approached the games. And look, they got really lucky to get through. They should have lost to Alabama. If you go back to that Alabama, I mean, they were done. They were cooked. Now, when they got down 7 late, they were done. Alabama should have closed them out, and then this whole thing with Michigan would have it. Yeah, and the story would still be good, but it wouldn't be quite as good, because I love the fact that they're probably going to get a title and then have the title taken away, um, and I love the fact that they're forever tainted, so that makes it great. But um, I think it absolutely I think it absolutely impacted the way that those guys did, and we'll see how good they are this year without it, because that's been a crutch for them for 3 years. I still have a hard time believing that they went from is so impossibly bad, and they went to world beaters in 3 years without an influx of talent on the recruiting, limited portal movement, no changes in the coaching staff, and all of a sudden they went 40-3 the last 3 years. Uh, I I think it's a mathematical improbability, and I definitely think I think the players are overrated as a result, but we'll see.
I agree. Nikki Buckets, thanks to the 5. Disappointed from that documentary. Expected a clearer telling of the severity and allegations. Oh God, Nevada! You want to talk about a softball pitcher? It comes. Am I naive to expect more from LeBron and Maverick Carter? No, I
Oh,
expected.
oh
I
God.
expect this little. All right, Nevada, you go first, because everyone says Kirk, you're a hater. Kirk's a big meanie. Nevada's always much softer and easier on everybody than I am, because I'm angry and just that's just how I am. But Nevada, what are your thoughts? Should we expect more from LeBron and Maverick Carter in a documentary like this?
Well, you got to remember, I mean, their role really consisted of just money. They're a production company, and so they're not in on creative. They're not in on direction. We've talked about some editing moves that we'd have made already, but I can't even get mad at those guys on that thing. I just think it just was yeah, there was a lot more presented to them, but they had to kind of cut it down to an hour and a half. This wasn't like some movie that they could show for 4.5 hours, or some mini series or something. They had 90 minutes to tell their story, and they told it the best way they thought knew how. Um, but no, they left out some really big piece. For them not to touch on the Matt Weiss computer thing at all, for them to not touch on the whole vacuum cleaner, B2C, whatever it is, I don't know how you can leave out those plot points, because those are huge parts of the story as far as I'm concerned. And spend less time on stupid Connor Stallions dressed up as a little kid, trying to make us feel sympathy for him, because he was out there dressing like Bo Schembechler when he was little, and people probably made fun of him or whatever it was. But um, I think I wish they'd have spent more on the heart of the story, because it is a semi interesting story had they dealt with it in a serious manner. And I felt like maybe the last 20 minutes they kind of did, but yeah, I wish they would have gotten to that, because I thought it would have been a much more interesting documentary.
Totally agree. Rohan Van Gogh, thanks for the deuce. Will Sonny stay another year given his first year linebacker? Depends on how it goes. I mean, Sonny's the guy who's ready made for the NFL, and he'll test out of the gym, and he could be a first round pick if he has a big year at will. So we'll see. I mean, again, I think that there's going to be some guys that'll take off because they don't want to be part of a rebuild. But you know, if you win the Natty, there's a lot of guys that want to get out and go out on top. So we'll see. But Sonny is Sonny can be as good as he wants to be. He is a joystick freak show of a linebacker, and I think he's going to be a force of nature. And I'm going to enjoy him for as long as we have him here. Nevada, your thoughts? Will Sonny stay another year, given his first year at linebacker?
Yeah, I mean, look, you remember his whole objective was three and done. That's why he reclassified and did his whole thing. And his goal is to get out of here as quickly as possible, and get to the NFL. And you're right; it's totally dependent on individual performance and team performance. If he balls out and the team achieves their goals, yeah, I would expect there to be a wholesale migration of guys out the door, led by Sonny Styles. But we're a long way away from that. I mean, I haven't seen him play a single really good game in Ohio State yet, so we're a long way from him being a first round pick in the NFL. But I'd love to see it.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Quinn Ewers. Like Quinn Ewers was like the highest rated quarterback in the history of most of the recruiting rankings, and he ends up taking off, goes to Texas, but he ends up staying for his fourth year, senior year, and even if you leave early, like, do you really want to be a 20-year-old in the NFL, or would you rather be, if he stays one more year, he'll be 21, he'll be in the league, he'll be just as good. Because these guys both, they reclassified and graduated an entire year early. So I don't know if it's beneficial to be that young and head to the league when you could come back, be a captain, be an All-American, be the face of the franchise, like Quinn did. Quinn could have left last year, probably been a first or second round pick, but now he's gotten to be a top 10 pick. So if he has a big year, like, is he starving by staying for the year? No, he got a huge NIL there. He's got a private jet deal, for God's sake. So it's like he's living pretty good. But I think that I mean, the one thing about college, I'll say this, and you guys know how much I love Ohio State. You know how much I love Jim Tressel, and that once you're out of college, it's never the same. You're a mercenary. You don't. There's no family. There's no brotherhood. There's no nothing. You're just playing for money at that point. When you go to the NFL, you're playing for money. When you're in college, it's like you're playing for your boys, you're playing for your coach, you're playing for your family. But when you go to the league, it's like you're straight mercenary. Like guys are getting cut, traded. There's guys that are 35 years old and you're 22 years old. So the skew is much greater. When you're in college, man, everyone's kind of the same. Everyone's kind of between 4 years apart, 3 4 years apart, and you really get to know everybody because everyone's all together for until they're seniors or until they until they declare early and take off. So I loved college. I had an opportunity to leave after my junior year. I had a grade of third, fourth round, and I stayed, and I ended up being a seventh round pick, which was stupid because I had my best year ever as a senior, but I didn't regret it. I wasn't sitting there. I was like, "Well, I should have left and whatever," because I loved playing at Ohio State. I loved playing in front of Jim Tressel. I loved playing for the state of Ohio. I loved playing for the Ohio State fans, and I didn't have the same passion when I went to the league. Now, in the league, it's great because you're making money. You're making like serious, serious money. So if money motivates you, which it motivates all of us to take care of our families, take care of our kids, whatever, it's a great motivator. But when you're in college, it's just like you're playing for your home state, your family, Jim Tressel, and it's real easy to be motivated and excited to do that. Like again, I didn't have NIL money, I didn't care about that, but I liked playing for Ohio State. I never felt the same when I played for the Bears, or the Lions, or the 49ers, or the Dolphins. It's just very transactional at that point. So I'll leave it at that. Nevada. Alexander Presley, thanks for the five. Says I don't blame Michigan for cheating. We should have won each of those games regardless. We are Ohio State. Enough said. Day needs to do better. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that?
Look, there's no question we got to. I mean, this year is an important year for Ryan Day. It's an important year for everybody. Everybody knows that, and to me, the cheating. It's not like an excuse or a bailout for Ryan Day, but it to me it does explain an inexplicable 2022 game, which that game never made sense to me. And like you, I've watched thousands and thousands and thousands of football games, and as a gambler, you're looking for patterns and pattern recognition and how games go. And that was the weirdest game that I might have ever seen. Certainly, the weirdest Ohio State game, and the game that I just never understood what happened until the cheating scandal got revealed, and then I understood exactly what happened in that game. So for Ryan, look, that's water under the bridge. We're never going to get those wins back. The best we can hope for is that the wins are vacated and the wins are at least taken away from Michigan side. But we got to win this year, and the good news is we got the team to do it. We're playing at home, no excuses. So we just got to go get it done. But we don't play Michigan tomorrow. We play Akron in 2 days. Got to get that done, and then we'll worry about Michigan down the road. You're on mute there, Mr. Barton.
Thank you to that. I appreciate you. You got my back as always. W Buckeye, thanks for the five. Oh my! Just watching pregame Minnesota versus North Carolina. Klatt has a Sharon Moron swooning all over him. Puke. Nevada, your boy Joel Klatt has. I mean, he's taken a header off of a very, very tall cliff at this point because he has lost his mind. But your thoughts on that? Him having Sharon Moran and swooning all over him.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Joel. People have lots of different theories about it and whatever, but he used to be really really good. He used to be one of my favorites, and now he's kind of embarrassing. So I don't know. It happens. We've talked about it. It happened with Tony Romo. Um, guys kind of get a shtick, whether that's a directive from his corporate bosses at Fox that they want to promote Michigan, they want to promote Sharon Moore, or that he's just trying to be different. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's really weird because I used to really like him, and I thought he was one of those guys that was really smart and really said things that I thought were kind of intellectually curious and had a real good insight. Former quarterback, but now I don't even know. He's kind of a buffoon to me now, and so that doesn't surprise me at all that they had him on pregame.
Boogie Bucknut, thanks for being ultra. Thanks for the 10. Oh, this is good, Nevada. Love the show, guys. How do the Michigan beat writers still have a job? Nevada's undefeated in breaking scum allegations. Nevada, the Michigan beat writers are just so impossibly bad. How do they still have a job? And why are you undefeated in breaking scum allegations?
Well, I mean, the Michigan, we've had really good sources on the Michigan stuff, and um, I mean, I think it's funny because I asked Justin Spiro that I said, look, are these guys are they just making stuff up to try to placate their mobs and so they don't lose their thing, or they're really being fed this by Michigan and then they're just repeating it? And he said he really thinks that they're being fed it and they're repeating it, and that at Michigan that's just kind of their thing. They give them this stuff to, and he said Chris Ballas is the worst, and he's just a guy that's just been absolutely spectacularly wrong, like the perfect contrarian indicator when it comes to this thing because he's just been wrong about everything. And what's been funny is lately, since the second NOA has dropped, Ballas has gone almost like completely radio silent on the topic. Like it's the first time where he's not going out there because they finally told him how bad this whole thing is. So even but none of the none of the credible. I mean, Yoder's a troll, so I don't even, I don't take his troll take seriously. But none of the Michigan insiders right now are saying this is nothing. None of the Michigan insiders are saying, "Oh, we got that apology from the NCAA. This is a big nothing burger." They're not saying that anymore because they know. And but yeah, no, this one we've been pretty well sourced up on the story, um, and because we're not beholden to anybody, because we don't have to sing anybody's tune like the Michigan insiders. We're just not getting it wrong.
Totally agree. Michael Jarrett, thanks for the 10. I'm so mind blown when I heard Yoder again talk, heard his podcast. I was like, wow, before you had him, just to see him there. Then on your show, he's like, wow, they're all brain dead. God scum is a joke. Nevada OH.
I
Look, I love Yoder. Yoder is a king troll. He called me when they won the national title. He randomly called me and said some crazy stuff to me while I was on. He was on the air to troll me. He did it to Zach Smith, who's my boy, and so that's kind of Yoder's shtick. And Yoder's a sharp guy, but again, I love him, love Spiro, love Nevada. I think our show's gonna be great, but I cannot disagree more with the fact that he thinks it's gonna be a 2 game suspension and a fine. From what those guys did, repeat offender. Sharon Moore was suspended last year for 1 game, and he repeats as an offender. So it's like, why do they? Oh, we're just going to give you another game. We're going to give you a 2 game suspension because that's all that it's worth. I'm like, that's with lack of institutional control, with all the rest of it, like it is going to be as bloody can be, and I cannot wait for it. I'm going to be here for it. And again, if the NCAA shows up with a 2 game suspension and a fine, then they're over. They're done. They should shut their doors after they do it wrong. Why it's not going to happen? Because again, when you're a second time offender and you're just flicking off the NCAA and you're not cooperating, like eventually when you want to bully, the bully's going to beat you down, and that's what the NCAA is. So Nevada, your thoughts. Michael Jarrett again. He says, "I'm so mind blown when I heard Yoder again talk. Heard his podcast. Was like, wow. Before you had him, just to see there's. Then he's on your show and he's like, wow, they're all brain dead. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, it's funny because I can't quite get you. Normally, I can get a handle on whether somebody's doing it. I just can't really get a handle on whether Yoda really believes that or not. Because anybody who would believe that, I know he's a smart guy, so I know that he's not. He doesn't have the intellect of a small child. But to believe that, you would have to have the intellect of a small child. You would have to believe that Michigan um, is allowing themselves to be just pillared, through social media, through the national media, with their boosters, with their recruits, with their staff, with their players, all because they refuse to pay a fine and suspend Jerron Moore for a couple of games. And yeah, no. And also, if that was the case, they would have leaked the NOA would have been leaked within 5 seconds of them receiving it, guys. The longer this goes, the worse this thing. That is the one truism I can tell you with absolute certainty is the longer this NOA is, it's because Michigan does not want it out. And why doesn't Michigan want it out? Because it's bad. And but this all is going to be revealed shortly. So we won't have to guess anymore. We'll see. We'll see who's right on this one. If the NAA comes out and it's a big apology letter to Michigan, and we're sorry, and you guys did nothing wrong, and if here's some, a fruit basket, then I will stand up and say, "Oh, Nevada was wrong." I don't. I'm not wrong on this one, guys. We'll see.
Nevada, in the history of your life, has there ever been a time where there's been a legal document that was favorable towards you and cast you in a innocent light, a perfect light, a light where maybe someone lied about you or misconstrued what really happened that you did not want revealed to the public?
Yeah, no,
I know,
no.
I know
When
you
that
can't,
general,
you can't think of anything like that. But I'm just saying, like, has there ever been a time where it's like, oh my god, this is so good that I just want to keep it under wraps and make sure that
yeah,
nobody
no,
knows, or like, do you just wish you could leak it and say, hey, this is
yeah,
what really
I
happened. This is what's really going on.
yeah, generally when stuff is exculpatory, you want to leak it and you want to get it out there. And yeah, yeah, that's probably a pretty good hypothetical. But yeah, when things are good, you want everybody to know, and when things are bad, man, you don't. You want everybody. You tell everybody to shut up. You tell everybody to move on. Why are we even discussing this anymore? You try to ridicule the people in terms of bringing it up, and you never want it to see the light of day. So that's kind of where we're at with Michigan right now.
You've lived it. All right, Nevada, let's wrap this thing. Any final thoughts before we go into Thursday night? Really good college football tonight.
No, it's a great night for college football. Great night. One more day closer to Akron. I
Mm-hmm.
can't believe that we're only 48 hours away. And I can't believe you didn't bring up the whole Chipotle thing where Ohio State athletes are getting like free Chipotle or something like that.
No,
Because
all
I
right,
know
all right,
that
all right, all right, all
nothing,
right, all right,
nothing,
all right.
nothing gets Kirk Barton going more than the food at Ohio State. Because when he was there, he lived on ramen noodles and double cheeseburgers, and now they're getting free Chipotle. How did Kirk Barton miss on this free Chipotle thing?
So it's one meal a week, which dampens it severely to me because it's like it's one meal a week, so that's like $10 a week. So it's not. I thought it was like because there's some celebrity cards that Chipotle gives out where it's like literally free Chipotle every time they show up. They can show this card. That's what I thought it was. I was wrong. I'm stupid. I completely agree with it. But it's like Chipotle when I was in college, even Chipotle 10 years ago was a million times better than it is now. Chipotle is terrible now. And again, I mean, when I was in college, Chipotle was like, it was the greatest thing of all time. Oh 06, oh 07, oh 08. When I was training for the NFL Combine, I would eat Chipotle twice a day. My agent basically gave me a stipend that gave me, like $60 a day for Chipotle. So I was spending $30 a trip to Chipotle, which is insane for one person. It's a lot. But this is back in the olden days where a burrito is 650 and a quesadilla was 650. It's not like now where like a burrito is like $17 for rice and tortilla and half an ounce of meat. Like that's where we're at now. But I just think you know It's a great deal. They got the marketing out of it, but like one meal a week is not enough. I mean, there was a time I was eating there twice a day, and I loved it. But I was, good for Ohio State. Good these kids. I mean, the problem is now with these kids is like they get so much good food now that there's no reason to like even be excited about getting a food deal with Chipotle because these guys get Bravo and Cameron Mitchell's and cheesecake. They get all kinds of great food at the facility, like every day, catered in, cooked at temperature, served at temperature. Donato's, Buffalo Wild Wings, Twin Peaks. They all service the Woody Hayes. So when you get like to me, it's like I don't even want to drive to Chipotle because I can just go to the cafeteria, take a bunch of food home, and it's just as good. So, but it was cool. Like again, I love seeing these kids get some little bit of deals and see how it goes. So, good show, Nevada. All right, off into tonight. Any final thoughts?
Nah, go Buckeyes. Go J.J. Smith, catch a touchdown pass, make Nevada happy.
No community college for the Little Nevada Buckeyes. All right, let's go. Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for having a great night tonight. Again, thanks for another great Thursday. 2 nights out from game day. We're coming. The Buckeyes are staying downtown tomorrow night at the Hilton. It's going to be an absolute great night. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate all that you guys do each and every night. Again, the show is growing like crazy. What an incredible audience we've had the last few nights. Smashing everybody, folks. So we appreciate that. Again, it's a slippery slope, but it's also a huge. It's huge when you're at the tip of the slope and you get to really drive into it and really figure out what's going on in this Michigan deal. It's really really fun to get into. It feels great to be first. And it's always really exciting to get into what we're getting into. So again, we appreciate you guys so very much for all that you guys do. If you guys want to do something huge for us as this show is growing, subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts. Get on your iPhone, get on your iPad, get on your MacBook, click on Apple Podcasts, click subscribe, type in Buckeye Scoop, leave us a 5-star review. Do that on Spotify as well. Even if you guys like to watch this on the YouTube channel, it's absolutely amazing if you guys can do it for those. Because again, our audio medium is growing as fast as anything that we have. And so thanks to you guys. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great night. Go Bucks.